To understand what I'm about to tell you, you need to do something first. You need to believe in the impossible. Can you do that?
What do you desire that you can't have?
Now you should at least give a brother a moment to say something heroically clever.
You're the boy from the circus.
So I have this thing with rolls.
There's about a dozen ways that I could stop you right now. But I don't think I have to.
The staff chose me, and I choose you.
I started up a security firm.
Finally, a superhero team I can actually get behind.
In the future, my friends may not be heroes, but if we succeed, they will be remembered as legends.
Welcome to the CTV Report for the week ending Saturday, September 19th, 2020. I'm Little Eddie O'Hare, aspiring professional fanboy.
And I'm Sarah Netzley, academic by day. And I forgot my introduction! That's how long we've been away! Oh my god, freelance writer by night! Keep going!
We're here to bring you recaps, news, and commentary for all live-action television shows based on DC Comics.
And we have some rust to knock off, because we've been away for a little bit, and it's been weird not to hear your voice every weekend. But we have no new episodes, we have a bunch of news, and we have a very cool retro pick.
Yes, we do. Oh, man, I'm excited. I am so excited. Sarah, I miss you so much.
I know, it's been really weird not seeing your face and hearing your voice every week.
Yeah. So have you been making the most of the time? How many sourdoughs have you baked in the last month?
I've still not turned into a bread person. Still not. I still have no starter that I feed. I find that very strange to think about something in your fridge that you have to feed. How about you? Have you succumbed to any weird hobbies?
No. I've become much more familiar with Grubhub and DoorDash than I ever thought I would.
Here.
Yeah, no. So just doing the relaxing thing. I get to go to the movies because I can drive to New Jersey or Pennsylvania and go see a movie.
You know why? Because everything is legal in New Jersey. You're welcome, Hamilton fans.
Yes, and it's been really nice because most of the time I go, I'm the only person in the theater, so I've been having some nice private screenings to myself.
It's nice that you rented out the theater for your own personal usage. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, you stay safe, you wear a mask, but to anyone who's wondering, come in the pool, the water's fine. As long as you're not stupid. But yeah, and I feel like
feels like a big supposition these days sometimes.
But we're here to be cheerful and talk about fun DC stuff.
But really quickly, how was Tenet?
Tenet was really good. I enjoyed it. Here's all I will tell you to prepare you to watch that movie. It happens right from the beginning. The movie moves very, very fast. So you need to pay very close attention to everything because it's only going to happen twice.
That sounds extremely stressful and also strange. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, when you see the movie, you will understand what I'm talking about. And once again, John David Washington is very fun, and Elizabeth Debicki is tall, and fantastic.
She's very
fantastic.
Tall.
Yes,
okay.
very tall.
Right. Cool.
It's one of those. She has a certain physicality about her, and you could tell like when a director understands how to use that physicality. It like if you see her in like Widows, I thought she was really good in that movie. And she's really good in Tenet, and and there's other stuff. Also, there's a David Copperfield movie out there, Personal History of David Copperfield, directed by Armando Iannucci, starring Dev Patel, and it also features Tilda Swinton and Hugh Laurie and Peter Capaldi and Benedict Wong, and it is glorious. It is one of the most unique Charles Dickens adaptations I've ever seen, and as the son of an Anglophile, who's basically been baptized in BBC adaptations of Jane Austen and Charles Dickens, for the last 30 years. That means something. So go. If you don't want to see Tenet, or if you want to see something out, check out that David Copperfield movie. It's fantastic.
Huh. That's a good recommendation. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Sarah, you up on The Boys?
I am not actually. My husband rage quit because he realized it was not going to follow the comics, and he was just like, "I can't." And I tried to do can you enjoy it for what it is? I know it's not what it should be, but can you enjoy it for what it is? And he was just like, "No, call me if they, if they do that thing." And I was like, all right. So I want to say I saw through the whale episode. You know what I mean? And I need to pick it up again. So I think I've got 3 now. And I'm enjoying it. It is what a bonkers little show. How about you?
Yeah. I'm enjoying it. It's a little extreme for my taste, but it's based on a Garth Ennis comic, so what do you expect?
Yeah, it's exactly what I expect.
Yeah. I'm there for Carl Urban. And
100%. Yeah.
I hope Billy Butcher finds justice. But yeah, so I guess you're holding out for the for new British Bake Off episodes, right?
It is funny that you say that. I have never watched an entire season of The Great British Bake Off, and my friend Tanya, who's staying with us right now, was just horrified by that. And so we are in the middle of season 3 right now. Like, if I was not talking to you right now, I would be watching an episode of series 3 of GBBO, because it is just the most soft show I can imagine, and it's exactly what I need right now.
Yes, it's what we all need right now. We all need to contemplate, could I handle a tart or a meringue? Good. So that's all right.
So that's our month. That's our catch up. Ed and I have talked in the past month, but it's just not been the same. So this is, you got to enjoy us catching up on each other's lives. So there you go.
Yeah. Just fun random texts in the middle of the night. But all right. I think it's time we get down to brass tacks, Sarah. Let's get to the news.
All right. Well, we are not going to overwhelm you with news. A lot has happened, but we're going to keep it zippy for you. And let's start with Black Lightning. So a lot of the news we're going to talk about this week, this month, this episode, comes from the DC Fandom events, which were these virtual events that DC put on. They were happening. Ed, was it the day after we recorded our last episode?
I was the day before.
So we kind of have been sitting on some of this stuff. But the Black Lightning event at DC Fandom, all the cast kind of talked about what their wishes are for the upcoming season. And Cress Williams, who plays Jefferson, really would like to get back to school. He feels as though the mentoring leadership aspect was missing, and he'd like to get back to that, which I concur. Christine Adams, who plays Lynn, just really wants to not be stoned or drunk, which I also concur. Yes. James Reamer, who plays Gamby, would really like Gamby to get a girlfriend, or maybe a long-lost child turns up. That would be very fun. And then, of course, the whole cast really wants to keep talking. They said speak truth to power and take the real-world events and kind of mix them through the superhero lens. And so keep doing what they're doing, which, again, yes, please do that, Black Lightning. So
cool. I love how James Remar wants an actual storyline,
He's like, I want to do more than just give people costumes, please.
Oh man, that guy's a trooper. That guy's a real trooper. Just saying. Cool. And yeah. That idea about mentorship. Yeah, that's really important. All right.
Yeah, it's something I was missing in the past season of Black Lightning for sure. So I'm glad somebody else pointed that out. I'm glad it was somebody, important to the show. So maybe they'll listen to him. um, Moving on to The Flash. So it's not clear how many episodes we'll see in season 7. They have not quite started filming yet, from what I understand. But once they do, they'll get a better handle on it. But between wrapping up the previous season storylines and then moving into the new season storylines, what are we going to do with the actor who plays Ralph Dibny gone? There's a lot of things they have to deal with, but they don't know how many. Presumably fewer than they usually have, but they don't know yet. And my guess would be that's going to be the case for a lot of these shows that are just going to be like, I don't know, we'll see when we get back how many we can do. And Joe West this coming season is going to have a story based on societal changes, according to the EW article that this is from. So they are going to address the police brutality issue, the protests and things like that. And you almost have to. Joe's a black police captain. You don't have to. You can ignore the real world, of course. It's a superhero show, but they are going to have some kind of either parallel storytelling or some kind of metaphorical or direct. I wasn't quite clear on what it was going to be, but they're going to acknowledge it in some way this coming season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, of all of the CW superhero shows, I feel like Flash has been the least socially active, just in terms of political storylines. I remember last season we were making a big deal about the fact that Iris had natural hair. So it'll be interesting to see them really tackle an issue like this head on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the writer's room looks like for The Flash, but hopefully you have enough actors. And Candace Patton is extremely outspoken on social media about social justice issues. So I would imagine that she and Jesse L. Martin, both between the two of them, I'm hoping there are some voices there that will advocate for authenticity. And, if they can't get it with the current writers room, would be like, hey, let's bring somebody on for this. So we'll see how that goes. But that's in the works. Next up is Batwoman. So Ryan, the new Batwoman, is going to unite the Kane family in season 2.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. So Kate Kane is leaving the show, and the whole premise of the season is going to be trying to figure out where she disappeared to. And while that's happening, Ryan Wilder is going to unite the Kane family.
Yeah, hello, Ed. Of course, it's logic. It's just logic.
Isn't the only member of the Kane family left on the show like Jacob?
Well, does Alice count?
Okay, sure, and I guess Mary, by association. So yeah. So stepdaughter. Yeah. Okay.
I'm so amused at the way Mary is being positioned, or not Mary, but Ryan is being positioned as, well, she has ties to the Kane family, and well, she has ties to Alice, and well, she has ties to Sophia, and was she stalking Kate this whole time and making connections? It just feels like, okay, I understand you want us to accept all the coincidences here, but sure. Speaking of Sophia, that role has been cast. Shivani Guy from Dominion and the Catch will play Sophia, who is the glamorous pirate. Is glamorous pirate fair to say?
Yeah. That's actually shockingly apt description. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with Batwoman. Next up is Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois.
I'm excited about this news. The show is going to be set in Smallville. They hadn't really clarified where it was going to be, but apparently the family suffers a tragedy of some kind, so they move back home to raise their family. And Todd Helbing, the showrunner, in the interview said that he is actually from a small Midwestern town, so he really was excited to set the show there. And if you look around online, you can see pictures of the set being built, and it's the very typical storefronts on Main Street kind of approach. So I'm excited to go back to Smallville.
Okay, all right. So Sarah, if anyone goes up and reads issues of Superman and Action Comics, but really more so Superman, from about 5 years ago when the DC Rebirth event started. There was a run on Superman written by Peter Tomasi. And the premise at the time was that the pre-Flashpoint Superman, because the New 52 Superman had just died, so the pre-Flashpoint Superman, and who's married to Lois, and their son Jonathan settled in Smallville, and Superman came out of Clark came out of hiding and became Superman again. And young Jonathan was just discovering his powers. So I would not be surprised if they take a lot of Superman and Lois from that comic book run, which is a fantastic comic book run. And is really, I think, the best Superman stories since the high point in the 90s when you had Dan Jurgens and that whole gang on the character. Since like, the era when Superman, during like Death of Superman and the wedding and everything else. So I am hopeful that they will draw a lot from that. And the fact that we get double duty and Clark has two sons, and to see whether or not any of them develop powers. So this is the fact that they're setting in Smallville. I'm very excited by that.
Yeah, that sounds. I did pick up some chatter about watching to see if their sons will inherit the Kryptonian powers, and I wasn't sure if that was speculation based on comics or if that was coming from the show people. So yeah, that all sounds really interesting. And I've got the Tyler Hoechlin. I'm pro anything about this show, so yay. All right, Legends of Tomorrow. So, at the Fandom, the showrunners talked a lot about how they want the show to bring fans hope that we're in a divisive period in our country's history, and he's just hoping that watching these people come together as a team and work together and, bringing on board former villains and rehabilitating them and things like that will be something that fans enjoy and can take a lot of happiness from, which I thought was a lovely sentiment. And then, inevitable as the Tides news, John Constantine in season 6 will not be able to handle happiness and will absolutely set out to ruin his life. So,
yeah, par for the course.
Yeah. Oh, Johnny.
I would not expect anything less from that character.
It was the least surprising news of the month. And then a little bit of casting news. Lizeth Chavez is going to be a series regular Esperanza Spooner Cruz. She's a tech expert. She has also experience with aliens. I wouldn't be surprised if she's the person they bring on to deal with the new alien threat. She is from the Chicago PD, and she's not from the Chicago PD. She's from the TV show Chicago PD and the OA. So insert a joke about the movements here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and my favorite news of the month. Ed, are you ready?
Yep.
I have an update about Green Arrow and the Canaries.
Canaries music.
And that update is, we haven't heard anything, but Kat McNamara is still hopeful.
Oh, honey. Oh, honey.
I don't mean to make fun of them, but like every time it's one of the actors who are just like, I'm still holding out hope. Oh.
Sarah, you want to tell her?
I think do you want to be the one to tell her?
Oh man. Now we're saying this and now we're joking around about this and watch CW greenlights that show like tomorrow.
Yeah. we shut down a recording for the day. I hop on Twitter and see like, oh no.
yeah. Although to be honest, when you have shows like Stumptown getting canceled because of perceived production delays, who knows? CW might have that situation where one show maybe can't quite hack it and they need something else to fill the spot, and they decide to push Green Arrow and the Canaries forward in line. Maybe that's why they're waiting, why they haven't outright ruled it out yet. So who knows? Who knows?
That is true. It is weird that they haven't outright said, no, we're
Mhm,
not going to do it. So I do get why the
mhm,
actors would.
mhm.
But yeah, the moment of silence, please, for Stumptown.
Yes.
Yeah, very disappointing.
Hmm.
Okay. And moving on with our moment of silence. Moment of silence for DC Universe, which coming January 21 is going to be a comics only service known as DC Universe Infinite.
Mm, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is to be expected with the, advent of HBO Max. Which Sarah, I don't know if saw this on Deadline, but uh uh Roku and NBC Universal came to an agreement on Peacock. Um so Peacock is going to appear on Roku soon.
Okay.
Which to me signals that maybe HBO Max may be able to figure out its dispute with Roku. So I'm fingers crossed we may be actually getting that service. To the giant portion of the market who get their streaming stuff from Roku, which I am one of them. Um,
I am not, so Roku doesn't help me, and I'm annoyed
mhm,
every week that I have to get my laptop out to Chromecast Lovecraft Country to my
mm,
TV to watch it. Annoyed
mhm.
every week.
Oh, okay.
Just put it on. I don't care. The Fire Stick. Put it
Mhm.
on. Give it to me on TiVo. Give it to me on any of the number of ways. Just God, HBO Max, get it together.
But yeah, and Sarah, I know you haven't delved much into the comics, but this pandemic has also gotten me really close to DC Universe, because I've been diving into their comics library. And I'm currently reading a bunch of stuff from the mid 90s, like James Robinson's run on Starman and Mark Waid's run on The Flash, and the classic Power of Shazam series. I'm rereading that. So I will probably hang on to DC Universe Infinite. Also, I saw that they're pushing the window. So it used to be brand new comics would show up on the DC Universe app a year after they are published in print form. And when DC Universe Infinite starts, they're going to cut that to 6 months.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't see that portion. That's interesting.
so yeah. It's just I'm glad it's going to be around in some form, and we'll be able to access those comics. But it's disappointing to see the video portion and all of the DC Universe originals get migrated. I do hope that the HBO Max library is comparable. Because I never know when I'm gonna be in the mood for a 60s Aquaman cartoon, or maybe just some Super Friends.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, it was high profile news that the original series were headed to HBO Max. Harley Quinn, for example, just got a season 3 renewal, which yay. But I was curious about what happens to all those Superman or all those Lois and Clark episodes, or what happens to Batman the Animated Series, or things like that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, or the George Reeves Superman show from the 50s.
hmm I
That
mean, if
there's a
they're
few.
smart, they'll do a Disney Plus approach and have the different tabs, but I don't
Yes.
know how smart they are.
Hmm.
I mean, I saw that when
Hmm.
I was on HBO Max yesterday. I did see that they have the tabs, but they didn't feel quite as prominent as what Disney does with its service. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
But by the way, Sarah, like 3 years from now, when we run out of retro picks to do, look forward to some George Reeves Superman action. Superman fighting, guys and dolls gangsters.
Oh my god, awesome.
All right.
Okay, well, let's talk about some former DC Universe, now HBO Max shows, starting with Titans. We have Jason Todd becoming Red Hood in season 3. The actor is prepping to become Red Hood, so that is a thing that's going to happen. Is Red Hood psychotic? Because I feel like Jason Todd in Titans is not a picture of mental health.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting to because Jason Todd, as we know in the comics, was dead or thought to be dead for a long time. And it seems like they're going to be skipping that step and have um Jason Todd just transition immediately from being Robin to Red Hood. But what's funny is his whole deal. He is a hero, but his whole mantra is, fuck Batman. Um,
Uh-huh.
so
But that's what Robin said in episode 1. So,
yeah. So yeah, kind of some weird mixed messaging here, but I mean, it took a while to get back on track. So he's not going to be killed and resurrected in a Lazarus pit or punched back into existence, or I'm sorry, thrown back into existence after Superboy punches a hole in space-time. I'm not kidding. That is actually what happened in the comics.
uh-huh.
But yeah, he's an angsty kind of trained assassin mercenary who goes around um doing who hops around the world doing good, but doesn't want to do it Bruce Wayne's way. And there's kind of a real touch and go love-hate relationship between the two there. So I'm sure that's going to be more between Jason and Dick. He's kind of like, screw you, man, I'm doing my own thing. And so yeah. Um, yeah, it's going to be cool to see Titans tackle that storyline.
Yeah. Well, that's I don't know much about Red Hood, but that is interesting. As
Mhm,
always, thank you for the context.
mhm.
I appreciate it. A little bit other. It's not Titans news necessarily, but Alan Richardson, who plays Hawk, has been cast as Jack Reacher for the Amazon show of
Mm,
the same, if not name, than Persuasion. So I just thought it was kind of interesting that Jack Reacher is going to clearly be the lead character in the Jack Reacher
mhm.
show. I'm assuming that's going to be 10 episodes for Prime every year. And, Titans is maybe 10 episodes for HBO Max every year. So presumably he can do both. But when you lose one of your ensemble to front his own show on a different streaming service, that feels bad? Question mark.
Well, yes, and yeah, I can see that, but like, hasn't the whole dynamic of Hawk and Dove basically be that every couple of episodes they break up and then have a very sensuous moonlit makeup sex? Um,
Yeah, and you're
so
forgetting karaoke.
oh
You're
yes,
forgetting the
karaoke,
karaoke.
karaoke. But yeah. So maybe one point they do that, and we don't get the shots of them naked in the moonlight.
Well, then what are we even here for? Ah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe Hawk runs up when he they do the whole thing where Dove falls in love with Dead Man, who's a ghost, by the way. Moving
Oh,
on.
that sounds complicated.
Oh yes, yeah, and very creepy because he's a ghost who can temporarily possess people.
Huh.
So yeah, that goes exactly where the creepy place you think it goes to. Um,
Uh, well, I think we just call that ghosting, like from the movie Ghost, the Patrick Swayze movie Ghost. So there's
it's
precedent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so Alan Richmond is Jack Reacher. Yay for him. Um,
Yeah, yeah, good, genuinely good for him. I feel like this is going to be a
yeah.
companion to Jack Ryan,
Hmm.
which HBO Max does really well with. So, you know.
Hmm.
All right, Doom Patrol. Hey, we're getting to season 3.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, thank God. Thank God. If that show had gotten canceled and ended the way it did at the end of season 2, I would have been very, very upset. So thank
That's fine. I
God.
guess I was never that worried about it getting renewed. I just kind of assumed that it would be, and it was, and it's fine. It all worked out, little buddy. It's okay.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Whew. Whew.
Yeah. Whew. All right. Ah. Yeah, good. Good. Whew. And that is it for our HBO Max shows. Moving on to our Netflix shows, Lucifer. So last time we spoke, you and me, Ed, and then the two of us to our lovely listeners, we were talking all about Lucifer. So, of course, there's a lot of stories that have come out since then, but the two biggies for me, number one, the presence of God in the back half of season 5 is going to threaten all of Lucifer's personal and emotional growth over the last, 5 seasons. So that's not great. That's not great. He's going to revert back to that kind of place of primal pain and selfishness and lashing out. So if you were wondering what would be the stopper for him and Chloe in the back half of season 5, that would be the case, I suspect.
Oh man. So I guess the show's not in good hands.
Oh no. How long have you been sitting on that?
I literally
been a
just
while?
came up with it. I was trying to figure out a reference to Serato, which is the character he played in the Major League movies. And then all of a sudden it just popped in. It just popped in there.
Well, the Major League reference would have been lost on me, so let's just
Probably for the
speculate.
best.
Yeah, yeah.
Dennis Haysbert.
It's just he's got one of the best voices in Hollywood.
Are you in good hands? Are you in good hands? Anyway,
all right. I'm gonna make this stop by moving on to the next bit of Lucifer news, which is Netflix has not confirmed this, but there's a lot of reporting that says season 6 is gonna have 10 episodes. So season 5 gave us 16. Season 6 is going to roll that back apparently, and we get the final 10, and that's it. No more Lucifer.
You say that.
They seem very firm that this is it. This is all the Lucifer we get.
Okay.
We shall see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So then we have a little bit of news about Sweet Tooth, which is a Netflix show now, and that's casting. Neil Sandilands has been cast as General Stephen Abbott, and if that name sounds familiar, the Neil Sandilands, not the General Abbott, that's because Sandilands played the Thinker on The Flash season. Help me out. Season 3, season 4.
No, I think it was. We're coming up on
season 5.
We're coming up on 7, right?
Oh yeah, it must have been 5.
Yeah, it was 5.
It was 2 seasons ago, wasn't it?
Yes, it was the Nora season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you. So yeah, that's interesting casting to me because I don't think of him as a. I mean, I saw him as a man in a wheelchair, right? And so for him to be cast as a general, it's just I've never seen him in an actiony type role. He was the Thinker. I've seen him as the guy who uses his brain and is kind of a dick about it.
No, I'm sorry. It was season 4. It was season 4 because Nora shows up at the end of that season.
Right.
And the Nora season was after that. Sorry. But yeah. Either way, I've so yeah. So we're gonna have a familiar face in Sweet Tooth. I can't believe that show's getting made. Oh man.
And I think that's one of the few that's actually getting made right now because they're filming in New Zealand.
Wow, Sarah, have you seen any of the artwork from that series?
Yes, I have because they started including it with these stories sometimes, and it's bizarre.
Yes,
beautiful, kind of, but bizarre.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire has a very distinct style that does not lend itself to superheroes at all. But for a quirky Vertigo comic, it's perfect. And I cannot wait to see how they portray it in live action.
What are they going to make the antlers out of? Like, are they going to be CG? Are they going to be practical?
I mean, at this point, you need Werner Herzog to show up on set and say, "You cowards! If they're not doing it practically,
make them real."
Cowards. That's the best story to come out of Mandalorian, isn't it? Isn't it?
Really is.
They're all set to go with the CG Baby Yoda. Then, of course, Herzog just goes, "Cowards."
What is that man like to work with? I wonder.
I bet you he's very pleasant. I actually, he's German, so I'm sure he has high standards, and expectations. But I'm actually, he seems to have a sense of humor about him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
which I actually I bet you he's actually a very sweet guy. Just with one of the bad guy in the first Jack Reacher movie. Coincidentally.
Was he really? I guess I need to
Yeah.
rewatch the Jack Reacher movies.
Yeah, just the first one. Just watch the first one. Over and over and over again.
Okay. Is that the one with Colby Smulders? Speaking of,
No, that was the
she
second
was
one.
in Jack Reacher. Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I like that this has turned into DC TV and Colby Smulders report, which I'm very into.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, Sweet Tooth.
All right. That was way longer than I thought we were talking about Sweet Tooth. Okay. Next up, we have Pennyworth. Hey, remember Pennyworth? Remember when that was a show that was on? Remember Pennyworth?
I will say, this is the show I'm most worried about. I mean, I know it films in the UK, so it's not going to have like all the restrictions in LA, but like if there's any, because it's going to end up being like 2 years between seasons by the time, they film this to make it on the air. It's the one I'm most worried about Epix just going like, we ran out of money or the buzz is gone. So any news about Pennyworth, hopefully is good news. That it's still going.
No,
So what's
I'm
the
worried
news
about Pennyworth. Dang it.
Yeah.
Hey, Martha's pregnant, so baby Bruce on board.
Wow.
Congrats to Martha. I am worried that it's not going to be a happy thing. I feel like where she is right now with Thomas is not like oh yay, let's get married.
Well,
so that sounds potentially super angsty.
Do you think, because that show is so wild, the whole idea that Alfred had a tryst with the Queen, do you think we might end up having a moment where we wonder who the father might be?
Well, what happened to her at that weird party pagan thing?
Oh,
like, is there going to be paternity stuff? Like, I don't know.
Oh, I was actually wondering, are they going to have a moment where she and Alfred have a night together? Yeah.
Well, I feel like that was winked at
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, but I don't know. Do you hire that person to be your butler? If so, maybe. I don't know. I don't know Martha's life, but
Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that add a whole totally different layer to that relationship, where it's like, yes, your parents died and I cared for you for years and I'm never going to tell you that you're actually my son?
Oh my God.
I mean, it's wrong. It goes against everything. But
it's like, to be clear, it's terrible. But
like if you asked me as a purist, I'm totally against it. It shouldn't happen. But man, would it be wild to try to broach that idea on this show.
I wouldn't be 100% surprised if they did. I would be like, yeah, no, okay, we saw that.
I mean, right. if that's you have to end on that note, because there's no way you can continue. I feel like DC fans would show up and burn the whole set down.
Oh my God. It's all the way in England. I feel like the British are nicer.
They would find a way. They would find a way. Okay. So Pennyworth.
Okay, Pennyworth. That's what we got on Pennyworth. One more piece of news, and then we can get into the retro pick. And that news belongs to Why the Last Man on music. FX on Hulu, and that show apparently is going to start filming in early 2021. You know what? I still don't believe it's going to happen.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. It's it's we can't believe this until we actually see footage. But okay, all right. So why The Last Man is happening? Why The Last Man is happening?
In early 2021.
Early 2021.
That seems
okay.
So many other shows are rushing back. That seems like it's taking its time, which I find kind of interesting. I just find kind of, like Supernatural just filmed its final episodes last week, and the Flash is trying desperately to get back to start filming, and Y is like, nah, we got this, fam. We'll see you in January, February. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. All right. All right. And that's it for the news, right?
Yeah, that's it for the news.
Wow.
40 minutes of news is not well, we're not quite that much, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's a month's worth of news, so
it was. Yeah. You are caught up, friends.
all right, Sarah. I've never been more excited for a retro pick. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Here we go. Adventures of Captain Marvel. Chapter 1. Curse of the Scorpion. At the Valley of Tombs in Siam, a bunch of white guys in turbans were upset that the Malcolm Archaeological Expedition had desecrated the Tomb of the Scorpion. After Mr. Malcolm and his country club buddies discovered the Golden Scorpion and its powerful lenses that could cause earthquakes and turn rocks into gold, the wizard Shazam granted Billy Batson the ability to transform into Captain Marvel. A masked villain calling himself the Scorpion riled up the natives to attack the camp while he stole the lensless Scorpion and the secret scrolls. Last minute reveal. The white guys in turbans blew up a bridge while Betty and Whitey were driving over it. Adventures of Captain Marvel. Chapter 2. The Guillotine. Captain Marvel tore open the sinking car and rescued Betty and Whitey. Back in the States, the Scorpion recruited the gangster Barnett to kidnap Mr. Carlyle and demand his lens as ransom. Last minute reveal, Captain Marvel was shocked unconscious as the guillotine was lowered.
Okay, you missed your calling as a 1940s talkie announcer.
Oh, Sarah, I've been trying to find a friend to talk about this with since I was 4 years old.
So how did you discover this? How did you, when you were 4, what medium brought you this?
So growing up on near Bay Street in the town of Rosebank in Staten Island in the 90s, I grew up across the street from a Palmer Video, which was a chain of video stores in the Northeast. Later became West Coast Video. And so we would walk across the street, and I would spend a lot of time in there, and you pick up He-Man and they had a lot of He-Mans, they had some G.I. Joe, movies I'd rent from there constantly, and one of the things walking through the action section, I came upon this serial, and it was one of those things. It's 4 hours long, so it's 2 cassettes, and it was a picture of this superhero in a red costume with a cape, and it said Adventures of Captain Marvel, and there's also this guy in a purple mask with a scorpion on it, and like, oh my god, what is that? And brought it home, and I was used to watching black and white movies because those were on TV all the time in the 90s. And I just became entranced and committed, and from that moment he's been my favorite superhero. And I would rent this constantly, and then when that video store went out of business, I had moments where I had to haggle with Mr. Edwardson, who is a friend I knew from church and school, to be able to buy the copy. And I still have that copy to this day, and I also have this on DVD and Blu-ray. It's been very, very special to me for years. So yeah,
That's
yeah.
delightful.
Yeah. And I've talked about this. Sarah, I would love to know your thoughts. Please crush my dreams.
Well, so I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I feel like I kind of walked into this the way I walked into Batman the Animated Series, which is not without much expectation. I knew the title and I kind of knew vaguely what era it was from. And so uh, each time I've been a little not surprised, but just like, oh, that's what this is. Okay. So I did not expect the cliffhanger nature. I did not expect the what was interesting to me, and I'm not super well educated in film cinema or film studies. I've not taken film history or anything like that, but I am a citizen of the world and I watch movies. So it looked kind of like they took the like the cowboys and Indians shows of the 40s, and I felt like I saw that DNA in this, in the desert chases and things like that, and the attacks, and it was just it, it was the pace was both slower and more exciting than I was expecting, I think. And Billy himself was older. Like I was thinking about the Shazam movie and Billy was obviously a child. So to have an older Billy but a very young Billy, you know, was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he
yeah,
acts in a very youthful way was
yeah.
I just didn't know what to expect. I did not expect a 1941 version of The Mummy,
Mm,
basically. So
yeah.
it was all a delightful surprise.
Yeah, Frank Coughlin Jr. plays Billy Batson. He was 24 at the time this movie was made, and he'd been a child star during the silent era, and into the 20s and 30s. If any of you seen the classic gangster movie, The Public Enemy, he plays the kid version of the James Cagney character in the flashbacks at the beginning of the movie. He also played Uncas in the 1932 version of The Last of the Mohicans. And yeah, and he was hired because he was short and kind of looked like the comic book character.
Huh.
And yeah, I think he does a fine job. Also, it's funny you mentioned the Mummy, because Tom Tyler, who portrays Captain Marvel, had been a star of a lot of B westerns before this, and had actually portrayed the Mummy in The Mummy's Hand when they revived that franchise in the early 40s. Um, I think the year before he played Captain Marvel. Um, and yeah, this was a Republic serial, and Republic was one of the Poverty Row studios. Um, uh, that made a lot of Western and B pictures and war movies. In fact, a lot of the footage of the battle scenes come from are recycled footage from two war movies that Republic had done in the late 30s. Um, and yeah, they had this factory and cereals. Just to give a little bit of context for where this came from, there was no
Wait,
TV.
can I
Yeah,
can I interrupt here? Because
yeah.
as I was watching this last night, Jason, my husband, says to me, "Hey, do you need to research the history or where these aired or anything like that?" And I was like, "Nah, Ed knows." He was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to do any research on this?" I was like, "No, trust me. Like Ed and I have not talked about this, but Ed knows." So please enlighten the people.
Oh, sure. So, back in the 40s, and basically from the dawn of cinema in the first half of the 20th century, pretty much through the collapse of the studio system in the early 60s, when you went to the movies, since there was no TV, that was your block of primetime entertainment for the week. So you wouldn't just go to see one movie. It was always a double feature. Usually a 90-minute or 2-hour main feature, and the B feature was usually like 70 minutes, and they would call those stinkeroos or putteroos, because not that they were bad, just that they were much cheaper. And you would also tumbled into those movies was, probably like, 15 to 20 minutes of trailers, which oddly enough is about how long, trailers you get now. But there would always be a newsreel and a cartoon and either a short 2-reeler film or a chapter of a serial. And there were 3 main studios that made serials in the 30s and through the 50s. Universal, which didn't, which I think tailed off in the 40s. But the 2 major studios were Columbia and Republic. And Columbia, we know today is part of Sony Pictures. But and Universal was also one of the 7 majors. But Republic was a Poverty Row studio, but even though it wasn't as big as them, it put a lot more effort into their serials, which is why this movie looks so much better. This serial looks so much better than the Superman and Batman serials that were produced by Columbia in the late 40s. You could just see that with, the fact that Superman actually flies. You see him on wires, and there's rigs, and they have dummies that they use. And there's they really kind of they really put the effort into it, and it it really shows. And even though they didn't have a lot of money, all of it ended up on the screen. So yeah, this would be the kind of thing you'd see, but in the middle of your double feature, and it was the advent to TV shows. There were no TV shows, so this was the thing, and the whole idea is there would be a new chapter every week. So that's why cliffhangers were the thing, because this is a big shoot 'em up action piece, and just you wanted to get kids to beg their parents to come back the next week to see whether or not Betty and Whitey were going to survive.
And by the way, their names are Betty and Whitey, and I don't think we can emphasize that enough. And I'm pretty sure Betty's only speaking lines in the first episode were "help" or something along those lines.
Well, there's "back up, Whitey, back up."
That's it. She was being the backseat driver.
Yes, yeah. It's weird that they recycled, and it's it's the exact same footage of her just turning "back up, Whitey, back up, back up, Whitey, back up." They just decided to do that. I don't know why. But yeah, Betty was played by Louise Curry, who was one of those young starlets who showed up in the 40s. Made a handful of things, and then married an architect and had a wonderful life away from the silver screen.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's nice.
And Whitey's played by William Benedict, or Billy Benedict, who Sarah, I know you're a huge fan of the Bowery Boys and those movies from the late 40s.
Oh yeah, you know me.
Yeah. And Billy Benedict became a staple of the Bowery Boys, also playing a character named Whitey. Evidently, that was his thing. You get it, because he was a young guy with platinum hair.
Sure.
So yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. So the story, so the Malcolm archaeological expedition. Sarah, tell me what you thought of these guys, and whether or not the white guys in turbans were unfair to be upset that they were digging through the Valley of Tombs.
Honestly, I think the white guys in turbans had a valid point that they, that there was some cultural looting happening in that time. So, I sided with the white guys in turbans, but reluctantly, because they are in fact white guys in turbans, so, doing their very best. The mysterious Orient delivery. Also, I don't think we are paying enough attention to the fact that this is set in Siam. Oh my god.
Yeah. So everything's off. Yeah. So clever idea where you have this golden scorpion, and of course there are 5 lenses that make it work, and they split the lenses up amongst all the different scientists. Billy is in charge of protecting the scrolls, which he does a terrible job at because they're stolen that very night by the scorpion.
Oh, Billy.
Yeah. What, Sarah? What did you think of the Scorpion? Does he seem like a scary, imposing figure?
It looks like somebody in a bed sheet with holes cut out. He actually reminded me a little bit of, oh, help me out, on Stargirl. Who was the fella?
Oh, Dragon King. Yeah.
Cindy's dad. Yeah. It was kind of that vibe, and it made me wonder if Dragon King was sort of inspired by or was an evolution of. Just because it kind of. I mean, am I barking up the right tree there?
Well, the character was created around that same era, and there were a bunch of
Okay.
there were a bunch of bad comic book bad guys in the 40s. That was just a guy in a black cloak.
Well,
There's
cloaks are very stylish.
yeah. There's a bad guy in a Batman serial from in the Batman and Robin serial from 1949 called The Wizard, which is he's basically wearing the Scorpion costume, except there's no scorpion on his mask. So yeah, and what's funny is the way that they kept the the Scorpion is uncredited because of course someone in the Malcolm expedition is actually the Scorpion. I thought that was a cool twist, trying to figure out who's the Scorpion, who could it be, who's trying to get the lenses.
Okay, I have to admit, I cannot tell any of those men apart. There are no distinguishing characteristics that I can see.
No, not Mr. Howell, Mr. Carlyle, Dr. Lang, Mr. Fisher, Professor Bentley.
There's Betty, and then there's the rest of them.
And you can't forget Whitey.
Of course not.
So yeah, and so I'm just going through here. Let's talk about the action scenes and the stunt work. We see lots of practical effects, but the stuntman for Captain Marvel was Dave Sharp, and who's actually about 5 or 6 inches shorter than Tom Tyler. Although with the photography, and they shoot it in such a way that you don't really notice unless you're looking for it. And this is Captain Marvel is a very different type of superhero. So what was your favorite violent thing that Captain Marvel did while he was fighting the gangsters and the white guys in turbans?
Well, no, honestly, the thing that stuck with me the most was watching the bullets bounce off of him, because I was thinking how mind-blowing that must have been for audiences in 1941. That's the image that stayed with me from all of this. Also, he punched through a lot of walls.
yeah, and really to me, what's amazing about those shots is as the bullets bounce off him, Tom Tyler has this like sadistic grin that comes on his face, where it almost makes him more like a universal monster than it does a superhero.
Yeah, I didn't feel particularly safe or protected watching that, and that wasn't intentional, right? They're not trying to warn us about the effects of unmitigated power on a regular human or anything.
No, not at all. It's more like, oh my god, look how cool this is! I'm gonna beat the crap out of this guy. And what's interesting? Tom Tyler, because he had this booming voice, most of his dialogue was cut. Because of course in the comics, Captain Marvel is this bright, cheerful character, and and it's drawn in the style of more of like a comedic comic strip, than the more straightforward Siegel and Schuster Supermans. So he was more in line with like Barney Google or Little Orphan Annie. But because because the serial plays it much more straight, and he barely talks at all. In fact, most of his dialogue is just saying Shazam, so he could transform back. He is just this force that just walks in, almost kind of like a Michael Myers thing where it's just unstoppable. He's it's except he's fighting the bad guys. And for me, some of the fantastic things, and like he's throwing people off bridges. He is outright killing people. One of my favorite moments, and the thing, like I always love showing the first chapter to people, just because you have him like diving off of cliffs and jumping onto the bad guys. And there's one point, where he stops a group of guys who have a machine gun, and they all run off. And instead of flying around and scooping them up and tying them up or something, he actually takes the machine gun and mows the bad guys down as they're running away from him.
I think in 2020 we would call that some anti-hero shit.
Oh yeah. Like there were no parents groups or anti-Catholic league, and the Catholic League people screaming out, you're destroying our kids' minds. It's like no. Kids want to see actions and shoot 'em ups, and so we're just gonna have him be just as ruthless as any other action hero would be. There's really no code that you would see on like Saturday morning cartoons 50 years later. So yeah. Captain Marvel was a no nonsense kind of guy, and you did not want to tick him off.
No.
So yeah. So
Okay, look, I've held off long enough. That is a kicky little cape that Captain Marvel has. It makes me understand the Zach Levi version's costume a little more, because that he just had a swingy cape that seems like it would not be effective for crime fighting, but there it was.
Yes.
There it was.
Yeah, and that costume is like, if you look at the first appearance of Captain Marvel in Wiz #2, even down to the logo, to the lightning bolt on his chest, and that one button jacket flap, it is like perfect, the way they got that costume. I love the design of it. Sarah, do you think that costume would play today? Be honest.
No.
Oh.
I don't.
But okay. So yeah. So as an artifact of cinema history, do you think this holds up, and would you recommend it to other people?
I think it is interesting from an academic perspective, from a history perspective, from a this is how they did it perspective. I think if you're looking for the superhero cinema experience, the pacing is probably a little off from what you're used to, and it's going to feel like a relic for sure. But I do think it's worth checking out, just for the origin and curiosity factor, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
I do have my notes definitely say this is extremely 1941 paced. And I mentioned this off air as we were getting ready to record, but for me the weirdest part is the silence between scenes. I didn't realize how much we've been trained to expect those like musical flourishes going out of a scene and moving into a scene, but those older shows and movies just dead silence when they cut from one scene to the next, and it's so uncomfortable. It is interesting to me to kind of see what are we used to now and what feels really weird and off, and that's one of them. So this is another thing that just makes it interesting to watch from that perspective as well. How have we evolved as audiences, and what we expect, and what kind of cues and things that move us from beat to beat in our shows and movies. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth watching. I also now kind of want to watch The Mummy, though, but I always kind of want to watch The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser Mummy, Rachel Weisz Mummy. So, that's where I was left.
Cool. Yeah. There's no like da-da-da-da-da, those Batman transitions and everything else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think a lot of that might just come from theater. When you go to the theater, a lot of times they don't play music between set changes depending on the type of play it is. So that's probably a holdover from that. But yeah. So cool. So excited. So glad that you enjoyed it. Um, and I do hope other people check it out. Now, Sarah, Captain Marvel had been knocked unconscious, and we saw what that guillotine did to that chair when Barnett demonstrated it earlier. Is that guillotine going to be the end of Captain Marvel?
Yeah, I really think he probably dies in episode 3 of the serial, and that's it. So that seems, Yeah, how is he going to get out of this? I don't know. I guess we'll find out in a month.
Yeah, and you can find out next month when we watch chapter 3 and chapters 3 and 4 of this serial. And I'm just looking up the titles. So we're going to be covering chapter 3, Time Bomb, and chapter 4, Death Takes the Wheel. And that's gonna be the week ending October 17th.
Okay. This is me putting it in my phone right now.
So yeah, and go check that out, and I'm sure we'll have all different nuggets that we'll be able to discuss. Sarah, so excited. Is it I forget. So usually now would be our winners for the week. But I forget. Do we do that when when it's just a retro pick?
No.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Do we do it or no? We always end with a winner of the week, do we? And I'm trying to figure out like,
do
can I think of a winner for the week? Do you want to do winners for the week, or do you just?
I hadn't thought about it, but like I'll just personally, my winner of the week is Harley Quinn getting a season 3, which I realize is not, but we're not playing in the rules at this point this week, so that's mine. I'm just so glad they renewed that show, so that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
what about you?
And, I think for me watching this, it would be 40s men's fashion. Those suits, man. Oh, double-breasted and the vests and the fedoras, everything about that. I thought it was fantastic.
You're forgetting the cloaks. Don't forget the cloaks.
The cloaks. Yes, of course.
Those are
of course.
villains, I guess. So.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Tal Shitali.
Do you want to save it for next month, or do you want to circle back?
Yeah. We'll talk about Tal Shitali, I guess Siamese, the one native from the Valley of the Tombs who befriends the expedition and actually comes back to the States with them. Who's played by John Davidson and is like the low key coolest guy in this serial. As I hope we'll discover over time. But yeah, Sarah. We did an episode.
We sure did.
Oh, all right, and I know your heart out's coming soon, so I guess we're gonna end that. All right, everyone. We'll see you next month. That's the DC TV report. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Little Eddie O'Hare.
And I'm at Sarah Netzley, SaraNetzley.
And follow the show on Twitter at DCTV Report. Send along your emails, dctv@wickedtheory.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our show on your podcast app of choice and rate and review us. That helps more people find us. Check out our sister show, the Wicked Theory Podcast. This has been a Wicked Theory Studios production. Executive producer, Bill Sweeney. Visit us at wickedtheory.com. Shazam, everybody.
Shazam!
Shazam!